Amen.
You know.
There's that window there.
Yes. Well, you know.
Well,
The Bible and, you know, things.
welcome to Accessory to Thoughts.
Yes, welcome to Success Read Thought.
So today is another episode
Sorry, I've got a
of
sore throat.
the Heroes of Old series, and this episode will be taken by none other than myself.
Then the person who's not Ben
Yes, crazy. I know.
taking my series.
So today we are going to be discussing Hosea.
Wow.
So a brief explanation. Hosea was an Old Testament prophet, and basically God used him to basically act out how God was feeling. You really should have set that microphone up before. God used Hosea to act out how God felt about Israel. So Hosea being God and then his wife being Israel. So
Is his wife real?
Hosea's right wife.
Is she real?
I will ignore that question. Okay, so let's just start off by reading Hosea 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Starting at verse 2. When the Lord first spoke through Hosea, the Lord said to Hosea, "Go, take yourself a wife of whoredom, and have children of whoredom, for the land commits great whoredom by forsaking the Lord." So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, and she was conceived and bore him a son. And the Lord said to him, "Call his name Jezreel, for in just a little while I will punish the house of Jehu for the blood of Jezreel, and I will put an end to the kingdom of the house of Israel. And on that day I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel." She conceived again and bore a daughter, and the Lord said to him, "Call her name No Mercy, for I will no more have mercy on the house of Israel, to forgive them at all. But I will have mercy on the house of Judah, and I will save them by the Lord their God. I will not save them by bow or by sword or by war or by horses or by horsemen." When she weaned no mercy, she conceived and bore a son. And the Lord said, "Call his name Not My People, for you are not my people, and I am not your God. Yet the number of children of Israel shall be like the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured or numbered. And in the place where it was said to them, 'You are not my people,' it shall be said to them, 'Children of the living God.' And the children of Judah and the children of Israel shall be gathered together, and they shall appoint for themselves one head, and they shall go up from the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel." Okay, so let's just reflect on that first chapter. So
I'm playing with my mic again.
oh my goodness.
Okay, it's fixed. Don't worry. It's all good. It's all good.
My man's changed in like 3 positions. He hasn't even spoken
That's
yet.
alright. It's alright. We're good.
So, if we just think about what all this stuff represents. So, Hosea was told to marry a whore, someone who wasn't going to be faithful to him.
Would you marry a whore?
I would not marry a whore.
No, neither would I.
Yeah.
No, it's not a good business.
Okay. You're really derailing me. So we can put this in perspective how God must have felt, because in the whole Bible he's continually loved Israel, right? And Israel has continually spat in his face.
Yeah.
And it's like the whole Old Testament is pretty much a cycle of Israel betraying God punishing them, and then them coming back,
And then it
repenting.
starts all over again.
Yeah. So I'll read on chapter 2, verse 1 to 13. So, say to your brothers, you are my people, and to your sisters, you have received mercy. Plead with your mother, for she is not my wife, and I am not her husband. And she put away her whoring, for that she may put away her whoring from her face, and her adultery from between her breasts, lest I strip her naked, and make her as in the day she was born, make her like a wilderness, and make her like a parched land, and kill her with thirst. Upon her children I will have no mercy, because they are children of whoredom. For their mother has played the whore. She who conceived them has acted shamefully. For she said, I will go after my lovers, who give me bread, and my water, my wool, and my flax, my oil, my drink. Therefore I will hedge up her way with thorns, and I will build a wall against her, so that she cannot find her baths. She shall pursue her lovers, but not overtake them, and she shall seek them, but shall not find them. Then she shall say, I will go and return to my first husband, for it was better for me then than now. And she did not know that it was I who gave her the grain, the wine, the oil, and who lavished her in silver and gold, which they used for Baal. Therefore I will take back my grain in its time, and my wine in its season, and I will take away my wool and my flax, which were to cover her nakedness. Now I will uncover her lewdness in the sight of her lovers, and no one shall rescue her out of my hand. And I will put an end to all her mirth, her feasts, her new moons, her Sabbaths, and all her appointed feasts. And I will lay waste her vines and her fig trees, of which she said, These are my wages, which my lovers have given me. I will make them a forest, and the beasts of the field shall devour them. And I will punish her for the feast days of the Baals, when she burned offerings to them, and adorned herself with her ring and jewelry, and went after her lovers, and forgot me, declares the Lord. So I'm going to flick over to Luke, actually, because it's the way
Find a link.
Huh?
He's find a link.
I've just lost my place in Hosea. Okay, doesn't matter. So even just the way this is worded, it reflects, some of the words reflect word for word in the Prodigal Son narrative, if I can find that. Yeah, so Luke 15 verse 11. Right, Ben, what is the parable of the Prodigal Son?
The parable of the prodigal son is a parable about a son who goes prodigal. It's a parable that Jesus says about a son who leaves his father. He takes all of his inheritance with him and then squanders it in a foreign country. That country goes under problems. He then has no money to fend for himself. He then starts working. He gets to the point of extreme desperation, and he's like, well, hang on a minute, my father's still alive. I shall go work for him as a servant because I'm too ashamed to be his son. And then the father basically welcomes him with open arms and basically kills the best calf for him, holds a grand feast. And he says, behold, my son is lost and now he is found. He is dead, but now he is alive. And then the older brother is like, Yopa, I was here your whole time. What's going on here? I was faithful the whole time, and yet you've never thrown a grand feast for me. And then the father says he was dead, now he's found. So it's a grand thing.
Yeah, well said. So that's pretty much the Prodigal Son story, and you could probably see the links between this already. So basically, both people squander all they have. They reject the person they're supposed to be loyal to, and then eventually that doesn't work out for them. So Gomer actually ends up being sold to like slavery. So I'll read on
Spoilers.
So I'll read on in Hosea. Yeah. So therefore, behold, I will lure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak tenderly to her, and there I will give her vineyards and make the valley of Achor a door of hope. And there she shall answer as in the days of her youth, as at the time when she came out of the land of Egypt. And in that day, declares the Lord, you will call me my husband, and no longer will you call me my Baal. For I will remove the names of the Baals from her mouth, and they shall be remembered by name no more. And I will make for them a covenant on that day, with the beasts of the fields, the birds of the heavens, and the creeping things of the ground. And I will abolish the bow, the sword, and war from the land, and I will make you lie down in safety. And I will betroth you to me forever. I will betroth you to me in righteousness and in justice, in steadfast love and in mercy. I will betroth you to me in faithfulness, and you shall know the Lord. And in that day I will answer, declares the Lord. I will answer the heavens, and they shall answer the earth, and the earth shall answer the grain, the wine, and the oil, and they shall answer Jezreel. And I will sow her for myself in the land, and I will have mercy and no mercy. And I will say to not my people, you are my people. And he shall say, you are my God. And then chapter 3, Hosea redeems his wife. And the Lord said to me, go again, love a woman who is loved by another man, and is an adulteress, even as the Lord loves the children of Israel. Though they turn to other gods, and love cakes of raisins, so I bought her for 15 shekels of silver, and homer, and a lethek of barley. And I said to her, you must dwell as mine for many days. You shall not play the whore, or belong to another man. So I will be to you. For the children of Israel shall dwell many days without king or prince, without sacrifice or pillar, without ephod or household gods. Afterwards the children of Israel shall return and seek the Lord their God, and David their king, and they shall come in fear to the Lord, and to his goodness in the latter days. Okay, and then you refer back or forward to the prodigal son thing. The father's not holding a grudge; he's just happy that his son's returned, and that's very similar to this passage. Hosea is always always told to love, walk in love, right? Doesn't matter what his wife's doing, he has the duty to love her, right?
Yeah.
And if we frame God's love in that way, right? If we look at it like that, you begin to realize like how much pain you must have been in, right? So because it's like, can you imagine being in a relationship where you have to love this person who doesn't love you, right? She's unfaithful. She's going after everything but you, right? And you have to love that person like unconditionally. Like, is there anything more painful than that, would you say, Ben?
It's pretty painful, like.
And this is only like a human level. Can you imagine
when you see all of time with every baby born you love unconditionally just to see them fall away?
Yeah. And just think about that, because that's quite powerful stuff. And it all boils down to God loves us because his love is not dependent on us, which we just think about that.
Yeah. The Genesis story, I often describe it as, because a lot of people ask, well, if God loves us all, why doesn't he save all of us? Why doesn't he, why do bad things happen? Why do these different things happen and like that? And I often describe us as like, say, I think I've said this example in another episode, where you're in class, right, and and then some really, really rich person is completely smitten for you, completely in love with you, and if you were to get with him, you would be perfectly good for the rest of your life. You'd have everything that you could possibly ever want, and you'd be happy forever. But love is a choice, and maybe you don't like how his hair looks or something, and you're like, I just want to be friends. I don't really want to be in a relationship with him. Now, what's the guy gonna do? Is he gonna love you enough to let you go, or is he gonna stalk you? Is he gonna chase after you and make you love him? See, once you try and make someone love you, when you force it, it's not love. It's not a choice. Pure love has to be a choice, and we're the girl in that kind of situation where God's offering us everything because he loves us that much. Do we love him back? It's the choice that we all want. Christians love him, and Christians can see the great wealth of beauty and this fountain of glory. He'll wipe away every tear. aspect of God, that this is going to be glory forever. And sometimes eternal life is a key word that Christians overuse, right? My minister said, last Sunday, Christians are going to be alive in 1,000,000 years' time. You're going to be alive in 1,000,000 years. And that kind of puts it into perspective, like, eternal life, that's forever, but then you're like, hang on, there's actually a number there. 1,000 years, in 227 years, I'm still going to be alive. And it really puts it into perspective, because there's a love there. Because God actually wants me, and whoever's listening to this, to be with him. But we need to choose. We messed up in the garden, but then God provided another way, and that was his son. He provides this other way.
Yeah, and even in the Hosea story, what did Hosea end up doing? He gave everything he had to buy her back.
Yeah.
It was in full legal right to divorce this person.
Yeah.
Even way before this even happened.
Full right not to love her either.
Yeah. He would. We wouldn't say he's a bad guy for leaving.
Yeah.
Leaving her, do you know what I mean? But
we probably think he's a maniac. Like, imagine I came in and I'm like, I'm in love with a whore, Josh, and she's a piece of work, like, and you'll be like, Ben, what are you doing? And then every Christian who knows me will be like, what the flip are you at? So it's very interesting, the perspectives you can put on Hosea.
Yeah.
People will look at him with dishonor, but then God looks at him with honor, because it's his word. So it's like, ooh.
Well, one person could put look at him as like, oh, he must be some pushover. But if you read the second half of that's the wrong book I'm in. The second half of chapter 1, or he's angry.
He's so angry, yeah.
He's pissed off, but he still acts in love. And that's a challenge to us. So what are we to do with that knowledge? So we are told to walk in love, specifically. And what do we mean by love? We mean by Christ-like love that God gives. So if you go to Ephesians chapter 5, these are the first 2 verses. Therefore be imitators of God as beloved children, and walk in love, as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us, a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God. Loads of people would say, oh yeah, I love people. But
I think I'm a good guy. I don't hurt people. I like people. People are cool. Yeah, these kind of people.
But and then other people would say, oh, I love God. I just don't agree with the stuff he says or did, or we're not on the same good terms now or something. But this is what it says to walk in love. As Christ loved us and gave himself up for us, a fragrant offering and a sacrifice to God. I know we live in a Western society, and those words are probably a bit numb. We're a bit numb to those words. What does it mean to imitate Christ? Christ died on a cross, for goodness sake, for the church.
Yeah.
People later in this passage, later in that chapter, mentions love your wife as Christ loved the church, and people be like, oh, that's not fair. Why do the guys get to be like Christ? And is that a cup you want to drink from? Do you know what that means?
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm gonna quote. There's a guy called Mike Wenger. He's a pastor from America for a wee while. So he says, love is not feelings, but love has feelings. So the feelings, they don't make a relationship legitimate. For example, adultery, there's a lot of emotions tied up with that. But the lack of these feelings do not make a relationship illegitimate. Someone may say we fell out of love, but God never told you to fall in love. He told you to walk in love. So back to what you said earlier, you can choose love. Love is always a choice. It's not a spontaneous emotion, uncontrolled. These are but romantic feelings, also not to be pushed aside in importance. But they're only the icing on the cake. They're not the actual cake itself, So in that video of Mike Wenger, he told a story about a Christian counsellor, and a husband. So the husband went to this counsellor, and he said, "Counsellor, the love is gone. The romance is dead. It is but a distant memory. What am I to do?" And the counsellor says, you're called to love your wife. And the husband said, "Well, you don't understand. It's like she's not my wife. It's like she's my neighbour. We just happen to live in the same house." And the counsellor says, "Well, you're called to love your neighbour." And the husband said, "You don't understand. It's like she's not even my neighbour. It's like we're strangers. It's like I don't even know her." And the counsellor says, "Well, you're told to love strangers." And the husband says, "No, you don't understand. It's like she's not even a stranger. It's like she's my enemy. It's like she's undermining everything I do. It's like she's my enemy. It's like she's against me." And the counsellor says, "Well, do you know what the Bible says about your enemy?" And it really just drives home. It's like, that's what it means to have Christ-like love. It's to have love that isn't based on anything exterior. Do you know what I mean? Like, in modern society, we've strayed away from this biblical understanding of the male role in marriage. Like, there are a plethora of so-called love stories where the only thing displayed is a rush of, like, falling in love and the honeymoon phase, you know?
Flowers and chocolates. Yeah.
And they do little display what it truly means to love your wife as Christ loved the church. All icing and no sponge. So, romantic love is to true godly love as fun/joy/happiness is to a meaningful life. All wonderful things to be wished for and maintained, so not to wither in the hardships of life. But by no means are they sufficient nor reliable enough to lay your foundations on. And like romance passes and is rekindled as happiness and joy comes and goes. But perhaps if one strives to live a life that is meaningful, he could bear the storms of his existence, when joy is but a memory. Likewise, if we therefore put the focus on Christ like love, we might overcome the speed bumps that many are left undone by. What do you think about that?
Read that last bit again.
This is no longer Mike Wenger, by the way. This is me. So romance passes and is rekindled as happiness and joy comes and goes. But perhaps if one strives to live a life that is meaningful, he could bear the storms of one's existence, when joy is but a memory. Likewise, if we therefore put the focus on Christ-like love, we may overcome the speed bumps that many are left undone by.
It's very powerful because a number of people listening to this might find themselves in a position where they feel like they've tried to love someone in a very romantic way, but there are storms and speed bumps, and things just get in the way, and it's like, it's not even things to do with the two relationship. It's just other life things, maybe family, maybe friends, maybe church, maybe school, or university, or your workplace. There's just these different speed bumps, and sometimes you feel like, well, I'm all right because I've got a wife or I've got a husband or whatever. But the Bible talks about how we can overcome these kinds of speed bumps and endure. Not overcome them, but endure them, because Christ calls us to suffer. Being a Christian is suffering in His name. It's not about overcoming suffering. It's about enduring suffering and surviving it. And sometimes people put themselves in these kinds of moments of suffering where they say, it's okay, I've got this to hold on to, but you find out that that's not that stable, and then they've got nothing. It's like a well at this bottomless pit. It's like, I thought I could hold on to something this powerful, this strong, but now that I can't anymore, I'm falling deeper and deeper, and I don't know how to get out. But being a Christian's all about how God has His hands in a cup, and He's going to catch you, because that love, that relationship between God and man, between God and human, is never going to shake. It's never going to give way under you.
Is there not a passage in the Bible that says, a fool is he who gives up his life for that which he cannot keep, but a wise man gives up what he cannot keep
Yeah,
for that which you cannot lose.
Jesus' famous saying, even before he was hung up to the cross, was "Take up your cross and follow me."
Yeah.
You know, this suffrage, this.
We shouldn't take those words lightly.
No, absolutely not.
In that Mike Wenger video I've been quoting, he talks about a letter he got. It basically says, when your wife mistreats you, this is your chance to show the love of Christ to her. You know, and that's obviously not limited to the marriage, but just any relationship. You know, if you show love in the face of hate, face of your enemies,
it piles coals on their head. That's a verse.
Like, it's easy to reciprocate, but it's hard to show love when there's none given in return. You know.
Yeah.
Just look at my notes really quick. Yeah. Yeah. So I'll give an example of this, right? And I completely hand this over to Christ. You know, this is not my part. All right. If you say it was, then
you're a fool.
I mean, you're not speaking with knowledge. Anyway, you were there. So one night in Belfast.
Oh yes.
One night in Belfast. Right. So we were out in Belfast really late for some. We were at a work dinner thing. Right. So it was quite late, and was Archie. Was Toby there?
Yes, he was.
Archie and Toby. Right. Our friends. Anyway, we were walking to our cars. And then this as you do in midnight in Belfast, there's drunk people everywhere, and they all want to kill you or give you drugs or something like that. But anyway, we're just walking along, having a laugh as you do with your mates, and this guy, he's walking towards us. He's in our path, right? I look at this guy. I'm like, what is this guy? Because he's walking quite funny. He's holding like. He's holding
crutches and not using them.
He's holding two crutches and he wasn't using them. He looked like he should be using them. I was like, that's a bit strange. Anyway, so he comes up to me out of the four of us. He's like, what are you laughing at? And he reaches out his hand. And at first, I completely caught me off guard. I thought he was like coming for like a high five or a handshake. I was like, what's this guy doing? Anyway, this guy swings his arm out, tries to like hit me in the face.
Pure fist, like boom.
Yeah, he tries to take a dig at my head there. Matrix style, I somehow managed to slip back, and it narrowly missed. Like literally, I felt the wind cross past me.
And then I go, that guy just tried to punch Josh.
yeah. So I've never
just
this.
What?
And I was like, what?
Whoa!
I can't believe that just happened. Anyway, this is all happening in like seconds, right? Almost like immediately, this his friends actually start coming over.
Yeah.
Like trying to make sure trying to preemptively make sure I don't try and kill his friends for trying to assault me. But through the whole situation, there was no anger. Complete calm.
I mean, me and the other two guys were laughing our heads off because you just had a pile of drunk people. One of them trying to kill you, and the rest of them holding him back, and another one just like giving you a big bear hug, going, "Don't be angry with him. I'm so sorry."
Yeah, so his friends actually started like they were really emotional about this because they thought I was going to attack his friends. So I managed to back up from this. This guy clearly wasn't in a good place. I could have. Like, he was smaller than me.
He was tiny.
He was clearly limping. Or something. He did was the aggressor, and I was in the.
You could have just knocked him out, like.
Yeah, but I didn't.
But we didn't because we're Christians.
Somehow, I ended up consoling his friend actually because he was so nervous about the situation, even though I was the one who got assaulted.
What was he doing? He was like, "You can't just go punching people. I'm so sorry."
Yeah, so I gave that guy a hug. Went on my way. This is all in a few seconds, right?
Oh.
And then just a side story because it's hilarious.
It's so funny.
This guy came up in a bicycle, calling the Batman of Belfast.
Batman of Belfast.
He's just a vigilante trying to look for a reason to hurt someone. So he was like, You can't let that happen.
Alright, mate, nah, you can't let that happen. I wouldn't let that happen to anything like me, mate. See if someone came up and punched me, mate, I'd slit their throat, mate. I'd slit their... And we were just like, whoa,
It's like,
whoa.
I'll beat up for you. I'll knock his head in.
I'll knock his head in, mate. I'm from West Ends, mate. I knocked their head in, like...
I was just like, flip.
So I ended up trying to console this guy because he was clearly out for trouble.
Unhinged.
And Archie, because...
He was no older than 16, like...
Archie, because he's smart, he doesn't want this guy, us to be in his bad side. He's like, that's a nice bike you got.
Yeah, because we were kind of annoying him, saying, no, it's alright, you don't need to hurt anyone. It's just like, I hurt anyone I want. And we were just like, oh, that's a nice bike.
And then he's like, oh, thanks, stole it.
Stolen, mate.
And he just cycled away.
Oh, and he was on his own, and he's just riding up and down the street,
And we just saw him
looking for an
again.
excuse to beat, to stab anyone he can. Like,
That's crazy.
so that was the night.
Yeah, but yeah, it's straight. I did, absolutely level-headed. I didn't expect that. But that's just one example. You know.
Just calm, just peace.
Yeah. So if I find wherever in my notes I was going to read now, we'd be doing well.
Slit your throat, mate.
Yes. So there's another story of this kind of unreciprocated love. So a man whose wife got a disease from basically sleeping around, being unfaithful. Basically, she got a disease from her unfaithfulness, and her friend asked him why he didn't just leave her. He ended up getting angry. And he said, "I will love her for as long as there is breath in her body." And later, she actually ended up on her deathbed, dying from this disease that she got from her adultery. And his hands were held over her in prayer as he nursed her as she died. But it's
quite an emotional image, that.
It's kind of crazy, you know. It's just unrivaled love. You know, what can you do? So I have written my notes. Read Ephesians 5. So we'll do that. 25
Step
to
by step.
32. Yes, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, so that he might present to the church to himself in splendour, without spot or wrinkle or any such thing, that she might be holy and without blemish. In the same way, husbands love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself, for no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourished and cherishes it, just as Christ does the church, because we are members of his body. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. This mystery is profound, and I am saying that it refers to Christ and the church. However, let each one of you love his wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. And again, it's just we are told as well directly as the husbands, we are to love our wives as Christ loves the church. And based on what I said, that should terrify you. So I'll just to bring it back to Hosea really quick, if I can find it. It's unlikely. Here we go. Hosea 6. So this is just to hit home the sheer heartache God has. I think it cries out in this passage. Okay, so the first part of this, God is sort of quoting Israel in a sarcastic manner, right? Come, let us return to the Lord, for he has torn us, and that he may heal us. He has struck us down, and he will bind us up. After 2 days he will revive us, and the 3rd day he will raise us up, that we may live before him. Let us press on to know know the Lord. His going out is sure as dawn. He will come to us as the showers, as the spring rains that water the earth. And then, this is speaking properly, What shall I do with you, O Ephraim? Which is another word for Israel. What shall I do with you, O Judah? Your love is like a morning cloud, like the dew that goes early away. Therefore I have honed them by the prophets. I have slain them by the words of my mouth, and my judgment goes forth as the light. For I desire steadfast love and not sacrifice, the knowledge of God rather than burnt offerings.
I think I talked about this kind of love in my love episode a few months back. How about a father and a son's love, and how a son would do all the wrong in the world, and a father would still try and keep him alive. And similarly, if the father were to do all the wrong in the world, the son will either do one or two things: will just blindly follow him, or grow to resent him. And it really puts into perspective who's doing the wrong things, the father or the son. But sorry, continue.
If we just emphasize that last part, for I desire steadfast love and not sacrifice, the knowledge of God rather than burnt offerings. And knowledge, like, can be like knowledge in the Bible is sort of emphasized as I know Ben, he's my friend. I don't just know of him, I actually know him.
Yeah.
You know, I desire steadfast love and not sacrifice, the knowledge of God rather than burnt offerings. So he wants a relationship, and it kind of cries out.
You could sacrifice 100 lambs to God, but if you don't read any of His word, then you're nothing. You're a pagan.
If you don't actually,
But
and it also says in the Bible, if you love God, you will keep His commandments.
Yeah.
Right. So it needs to be. You can feel his pain because he sort of mocks Israel. It's like, oh, we'll repent. We'll
and
do
he's like,
these
I gave you
things.
commandments, like,
We'll repent, do these things, and he's just shaking his head like,
when was the last time?
When will these guys understand?
When was the last time your father gave you a list of rules, and you said, right, mate, I'm gonna love you, but like, so I know you love. Here's some rules here, mate. All right, these are your guidelines. God doesn't just leave us in the dark and trying to figure out what's wrong and what's right, what will betray Him and what won't. He sets it out in stone or in paper, as we have the Bible still, 2000 and something years later.
Another wee passage. Short passage again, just to emphasize what I just said. Chapter 11, verse 1-9. When Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. The more they were called, the more they went away. They kept sacrificing to the Baals and burning offerings to idols. Yet it was I who taught Ephraim to walk. I took them up by their arms, but they did not know that I healed them. I led them out with cords of kindness, with the bands of love, and I became to them as one, as who eases the yoke of their jaws. And I bent down to them and fed them. They shall not return to the land of Egypt, but Assyria shall be their king, because they have refused to return to me. The sword shall rage against their cities, consume the bars of their gates, and devour them because of their own counsels. My people are bent on turning away from me, and though they call out to the Most High, He shall not raise them up at all. How can I give you up, O Ephraim? How can I hand you over, O Israel? How can I make you like Admah? How can I treat you like Zeboim? My heart recoils within me. My compassion grows warm and tender. I will not execute my burning anger. I will not again destroy Ephraim, for I am God and not man. The Holy One is in your midst, and I will not come in wrath. It's painful.
It's painful being God.
And again, what is our command? Just one verse this time, don't worry. Hosea 12, verse 6. So you, by the help of your God, return, hold fast to love and justice, and wait continually for your God. And that is where this episode should end.
But it doesn't.
but I need to bring Revelation into everything, so we'll do that really quickly. I will, and I don't want this to be the focus of the episode, so I'll try and make it quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a passage called the Great Prostitute and the Beast in Revelation. Okay, so I'll read the first few verses. I'm gonna ask you a few questions, Ben. Right?
Oh, okay. I will listen.
So chapter 17, verse 1 to 6. Yep. Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and said to me, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute, who is seated on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed sexual immorality, and with the wine of whose sexual immorality the dwellers of earth have become drunk." And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and jewels and pearls, holding in her hands a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her sexual immorality. And on her forehead was written a name of mystery: Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and earth's abominations. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. Okay, so quick question: what is a whore? What does she represent in symbolic terms? So what does a whore do? What does a whore do?
Lust, or fulfills lust of
What
others.
does she not do, more specifically?
Commit.
Yeah, she doesn't. She's not staying to one person. She's going everywhere, right? It's like she's this consuming thing going everywhere, mixture, right? Even says she's on many waters, something like that. Who is seated on many waters. So you can think about waters. It says so you can think about it as chaos, or you can think about it as just sort of everything. It's all mixed together. You know, the lack of identity. She's not subject to one thing. She's not easily defined. You know, if you talk about someone's wife, it's so and so's wife. But if so and so's wife is sort of everyone's wife, it's who's I don't know what you are quite. Your identity isn't clearly defined. Okay, and she's depicted as being riding this scarlet beast. Okay, you can also think about the beasts are represented of different civilizations across the Bible, right? And you think about it, if she's the head of this beast, and she's also like sitting upon the waters, right? Like the head of the people has no head, has no identity, she's everywhere. And you think, well, that doesn't make sense. It's like, yeah, that's the point. And I'll read on later in that verse 13 to 18. These are of one mind, and they hand over their power and authority to the beast. They will make war on the Lamb, and the Lamb will conquer them, for he is the Lord of lords, the King of kings, and those with him are called and chosen and faithful. And the angel said to me, the waters that you saw, where the prostitute is seated, are peoples, and multitudes, and nations, and languages. Like, well, there you go. It says explicitly there. And the 10 horns that you saw, they and the beast will hate the prostitute. They will make her desolate and naked, and devour her flesh, and burn her up with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to carry out his purpose by being of one mind and handing over their royal power to the beast, until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman that you saw is the great city that has dominion over the kings of the earth. So, all of a sudden, this beast is sort of killing this woman, this prostitute, right? As because I said, it doesn't make sense. The head has no head, right? So it's flipped it. But if you want to read that by that symbolism, you can go to my Revelation / Tower of Babel one, because it's similar to that. But we're not going to dwell on that. Okay. So juxtapose this, Revelation 21, verse 1 to 11. So this is the new heaven and the new earth. Okay. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of the heaven from God, prepared as a bride, adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people. And God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more, for the former things have passed away. And he who is seated on the throne said, Behold, I am making all things new. And he said, Write this down, for the words are trustworthy and true. And he said to me, It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give from them spring of water of life without payment. The one who conquers will have this heritage, and I will be his God, and he will be my son. But as for the cowardly, the faithless, the detestable, as for the murderers, the sexually immoral, sorcerers, adulterers, and all liars, their portion will be in the lake of the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. Then one of the 7 angels, who had the 7 bowls full of the 7 last plagues, and spoke to me, saying, Come, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great high mountain, and showed me the holy city, Jerusalem, coming down out of the heaven from God, having the glory of God, its radiance like a most rare jewel, like a jasper, clear as crystal. It had great high walls with 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and on the gates the names of the 12 tribes of the sons of Israel were inscribed. And the rest of that chapter is basically describing the magnificent glory of this New Jerusalem.
Yeah, right. This is very strange because my episode is pretty much on that. So
I'll be honest, I'm not going to dwell on this completely. You'll be glad to know, even though I've drawn pictures.
Do pictures
That's
for a
how
podcast?
If you want to do symbolism, you have to draw pictures.
Josh is going to release art book.
Anyway, but really quick, because this is getting along, right? These are the same people. Hopefully, from this whole episode, you will be able to understand why they represent similar things. We are the Church of Christ, but we are whores. We are the great prostitute.
Yes.
You're drunk on the blood of the saints. But we are also the New Jerusalem, who is carried down from the heavens in magnificent glory, where there is no need of sun or moon, where it is shining magnificent bright. There's gold everywhere. There's bright, shining crystals, etc., etc.
And no tears.
And no tears, for these. The former things have passed.
Former things have passed. No more podcasts.
Just consider all these things, okay? That is all I must say. Consider all these things. What is I'll read that thing again, Hosea, if I can find it, as a closing, right before you leave. So you, by the help of your God, return, hold fast to love and justice, and wait continually for your God. Amen.
Amen.
Thank goodness. You're all thinking. Yep, that's the end of it. Also, if you're listening to this on a podcast provider, just so you know, we have a YouTube channel as well. We have some clips, shorter clips, so you don't need to listen to 50 minutes of me speaking before you're like, oh, that's an interesting episode. So you can check that out if you do, please.
Like and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at Accessory to Thought. Share with your friends. Talk to us, comment, and we'll do our best
Goodbye.
to respond back.